One thing I wanted to ask you, and this is something that a lot of people might not know, as someone who's a parent now of young children myself, one of the things we dream of is our children memorizing the Quran and stuff. And I just wanted to, before we move away from education, just talk a little bit about that, because alhamdulillah, I think it's very, very impressive that I feel that you and Brother Salim have done an amazing job in achieving that, like having a child which is a hafiz in this country, and by that I mean the UK, without going abroad and spending years there and this and that. So just give us a few words of wisdom for mothers and parents who, want to achieve what you've achieved with your son, and doing it in a place like the UK.
So from quite a young age, I always I thought when I have children, I want them to be hafiz of Quran. I want them to memorize Quran, because I'd listened to these lectures, and I think it was one of the shuyukh, who'd really, I don't know about you, but back in the day we used to listen to like Sheikh Hamza Yusuf, and he was always talking about how amazing the Muslim community used to be, right? And how amazingly educated children were, and like a small child could memorize the whole Quran. And I remember feeling very inspired by that as a teenager, and thinking, when I have children, I really want them to do hifz. But I think the reality was that in the UK, there was like very few, unless you live in East London, maybe, I don't know, especially in certain areas, it's not that easy to find a hifz teacher. So initially, I would say I think it was really important that I could teach my child, because I think, look, if you can teach your child every single day, nothing beats that, than going to a class once a week. It's just not the same intensity, right? So when it came to learning to read the Quran and also memorizing the last part of the Quran, the 30th juz, I did that with my children at home, okay? But then when they started getting to a certain age, I would say around 7, 8, I started thinking, especially with my boys, I felt like they needed someone external, like a murabbi, preferably a man, a male teacher who could really motivate them and give them that, and also maybe a class that could give them a sense of belonging and motivation, because obviously, like memorizing the Quran, over time, it can be quite an effort, to stay motivated, especially for a young person.
Yeah.
So we kept trying to motivate them by, for example, when they reached a certain milestone, we'd celebrate, right? We'd have a celebration, or we'd give them gifts. But apart from that, I think they needed that peer group. So I just started phoning around loads of people, and everyone was saying to me, no, there isn't anyone, until one sheikh, he told me there is a brother in Harrow, which is like an hour's drive away or 40 minutes drive away. And so I phoned that person, and that person agreed as long as we would bring our child to his house. And so we started doing that, but it was really far away, and it was after school, which meant my son was falling asleep, and it was getting hard. And then one day my husband just had enough, because it was just like really, you can imagine like being in traffic for an hour after school, each way,
every
right?
day, yeah.
With a child who's still quite young, he's still primary school age, and falling asleep in the car. And after a while, it was getting really difficult. So my husband walked into the mosque, and he talked to the local mosque, and they said, what, we actually used to have a hifz class in this mosque, but we ended it because the teachers left. But now we've got the staff again, and we were thinking of staff. maybe the fact that your son is like at this stage and ready, sort of ready to go, maybe that could be a motivation for us to start it up again. And so they did, alhamdulillah. And that was like literally 5-10 minutes away from home. So that's where my son began to carry on going, and but for me it was about making a lot of dua. I think anytime you get to a stage where you have a dream, so even I'll give you the example of even the fact that I wanted to do Islamic studies. I wanted to complete my Islamic studies, and I wanted to get married when I was 19. I couldn't tell how I would be able to do both of those things. And I remember just making that dua, and on both occasions, that, oh Allah, I don't know how I can do this, but I want to do both of these things. I want to be able to do this thing, and I don't have the means. I can't tell where the means are, but nothing is too difficult for you. So, oh Allah, somehow let this thing happen, And that's been my dua, I think. Anytime something seemingly impossible has turned up, But then, obviously, after you make that dua, you want to take some action. You want to do your best, get resourceful. But then once you do that, I've just found that the doors start opening up. And alhamdulillah, I think that's really what happened. We made that dua. We kept saying to Allah that this is our intention. Please, Ya Allah, we are kind of giving our child to you, We're giving our child to you. We're giving the most precious thing in our life, our time, our children, our resources. We want to serve you with them, so make it easy for us to find a way to do that. And I think if you have the patience and you don't give up, the doors slowly start opening.
Amazing.